Hey there everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another video. I'm working on getting audio working in Thundershock, and you know what, this is a little bit of a devlog on how that is going, because audio is actually significantly more complicated for me to debug than graphics are. Because with graphics, you have things that you can look at, you have your frame rate, you have, well, what's on screen? Is it glitched out, or does it actually look normal? With audio, it's a little different, because I mean, many things could go wrong. Your application could be muted. Your audio device might be different than what you would expect it to be for some reason. Your audio file itself might not be loading incorrectly. There's so many things that could go wrong with it. But right now, I've gotten it mostly working, and I've got it playing music. However, as we'll soon see, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a throwback to the PeaceNet days when I'm about to hit this button here. But that's not the right window. I'm supposed to focus on Ryder, but I'm gonna have the game play and something's quite wrong right now. The audio pitch is like an octave or like a few octaves down from what it should be. Now, for reference, this is an Anders Jensen song. I forget the name of it actually. Dreams Inc. That's what it's called. It's called Dreams Inc. by Anders Jensen, and it used to be the song I used in the menu of the PeaceNet back in the day. And this is what it sounds like in Thundershock right now. I've done nothing to the file. Nothing other than convert it to octaves because that's the only format my engine supports right now. But Audacity, show me what this sounds like in reality here. As you can see, it sounds the exact same, but the pitch is proper. I think what's going on is OpenAL has an incorrect pitch setting applied to the audio. I don't know if that's true, but we're gonna find out in this video. I want to show you guys how this all works here. What we do is, basically, when we set up the audio, all of these throw-on errors, I should really compile them out of release builds, but they don't really do much to performance. It's just a way for me to trace where an error occurs, if an error occurs dealing with audio, because OpenAL is pretty bad about telling you what's going wrong when there's something wrong. But basically, we have to set up these source properties as we set up our audio, because in OpenAL, it's actually the way it works is you have a listener and you have a bunch of sources. Think in a 3D game where you have a bunch of objects that could be playing audio. You may not be standing directly beside them or in front of them, and you want the effect of the audio hitting your ears in a different way depending on where you're standing and where the object is, and OpenAL lets you do that. And so you get this concept of you're a listener, there's always one listener, and then you have many sources. Well, we're setting up an OpenAL source right now. We're not dealing with any of the 3D stuff yet. I don't think I will in Red Team, but it's there if we want to use it. But we still need to set up some parameters in the source to get it working. We need to set the gain, which is the volume. And I believe we also need to set the pitch. I could be wrong. I think there's a way to do that. So I'm going to take this code al.setSourceProperty, and there's going to be a source float. Let me see what source float has inside it. Let's see if it has a pitch value. That's good. I might actually add a pitch setting to this whole audio output thing so that we can actually go ahead and have that feature in the engine, because that's something that monogame has, and if we are missing features that monogame has, it's kind of a low bar. Anyway, we're gonna try playing this, now that I've fixed that. Yeah, that's not good. Maybe we'll try, and I guess, let's see. One thing that I do wonder is maybe the audio format is somewhat incorrect. We have this submit buffers here. This lets you submit dynamic audio data to the audio source so that you can. Sorry, I just had to adjust my headset there. But this lets you send audio data to the audio source to have it play, so that it's not just loading in a file. You could stream this from the internet or from an embedded resource or anything. But I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try hard coding it to 44.1 kilohertz instead of 22.050 kilohertz. And that seems to have worked. So I think what's going on here is OpenAL is expecting the sample rate to be not per channel, whereas in my Vorbis player it actually whereas Monogame expects it to be per channel. So the way this works is, oh god, let me stop the music here. The way this works is you have a sample rate, right? And all audio has a sample rate. In fact, if I go into my sound settings here inside Windows, you can actually go into the old classic control panel section of all this whole thing, and go sound control panel. And you can click on any audio device here. For example, I'll look at the Samsung M7 smart monitor I have plugged into this VM. You can actually go ahead and set your sample rate inside of the no, not supported formats. Where is it? It's under advanced, isn't it? Yeah, advanced right here. You can set the sample rate of the actual ordeal here in the audio format, and so this monitor supports or is set to 16-bit and then 48 48 kilohertz or 48,000 hertz DVD quality according to Windows. Generally in a game you're gonna get 44.1, which is CD quality, and really that's sufficient for audio. And you're usually gonna get 16-bit PCM. There's also 24-bit PCM and, the same sample rate, but the way this works is you have, the first part of it is just the bit depth of each sample. So 16-bit, that means that there's 16 bits per sample, I believe. And generally that's what you're gonna see in a game, as far as its audio goes. And then the second is the sample rate, and the sample rate was what we set earlier in the code. So essentially we're telling OpenAL that we want 16-bit PCM and 44.1 kilohertz, or 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. 22.05 is half that. And that would make sense, because, well, the way Monogame expects you to do it is we're actually playing a stereo song. Right? If we go back into OBS, or not OBS, Audacity, you see here that this Anders Jensen song has 2 tracks in it. It has one track, but it's there are 2 sections to this whole thing. You have your left side and your right side, or it might be the other way around. But either way, this is a stereo track, and in this case, it is stereo, and 44.1 kilohertz and 32-bit float. That's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant what it's showing the 32-bit float. At the end of the day, this is going to get decoded as 16-bit PCM and decoded by the engine as a 2-channel 44.1 kilohertz audio file. That's how it's going to be decoded. And with Monogame, when we did this, it expected you to tell it, okay, how many channels do you have and what's the sample rate? Except in Monogame, it expected the sample rate for each channel, and because we have 2 channels and the audio file in general is 44.1 kilohertz, you do the math and divide that by 2 and you get 22,050 hertz. And that's what we set to Monogame. So cue me porting this whole ordeal to OpenAL and playing the audio file and saying, okay, well, 22050 worked for Monogame's sound system, and we are doing the exact same thing behind the scenes that Monogame is doing. I looked in the code. It does use OpenAL, so my idea was, well, okay, if it expects me to set the channel count, which it does, that's what this thing right here, this enum right here, audio format, or buffer format, is, it says stereo 16. That means that we're telling OpenAL we're going to send you a 16-bit PCM buffer that has 2 channels. It's stereo. So my thought was, okay, well, if I'm setting it stereo, then obviously it's going to drive the frequency from that and say, okay, you gave me a frequency of 22050, I have 2 channels, I'm going to multiply that by 2 and get 44.1 kilohertz. I was wrong. In fact, this entirely explains the pitch shift that happened. You know what? It actually sounds kind of cool. But, of course, it's a bug. OpenAL is actually reasonable and is asking you for the sample rate of the entire buffer, not just per channel. So 44.1 kilohertz. That's what we need to send it. And we get proper audio, which is great. With that said, a little bit of a development tip, I guess. I don't know. I kind of just wanted to show you guys what I was dealing with as far as audio goes in the engine, because it's a bit complicated once you start tearing away things like Monogame and start running the low-level stuff on your own. It becomes incredibly difficult and really annoying to debug. But hey, thanks to me doing this video, I actually fixed a bug, and I'm very happy. I have audio working in the engine. Now I have to sort out things like, okay, how do I pause, and how do I stop, and how do I make sure that the audio doesn't loop when we don't want it to loop, and I need to add things like pitch and all that stuff. It'll come. I'm working on it. And with that said, I've been Michael. As always, hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed the video. Apologies for not really making many videos very often. This is why, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. By the way, join the Discord. It's really cool there. Anyway, see ya.